The Constitution lays out the rules for our society. How is our government set up? Who is allowed to decide what? What's the province's responsibility? What's the federal responsibility? What rights and freedoms do you have? That's all entrenched within our Constitution. Our Constitution is made up of two Constitution Acts. The first is the Constitution Act of 1867. This is actually what established Canada as a country. It divided powers into the provincial powers and federal powers, which we'll talk a little bit more in our next slides, but didn't have any human rights or civil rights embedded in it yet. Somewhere between these two documents, the Canadian Bill of Rights comes in, but it wasn't actually entrenched into the Constitution until 1982, another Constitution Act, which included the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the Constitution and also added an amending formula. And why this is important, what this means, is that if something is in the Constitution, it's really, really hard to change it. Not impossible, but really, really, really difficult. The amending formula that was added in the 1982 Act is you can see it in your textbook. It's basically like a certain amount of provinces have to be on board. And so to have your charter rights, so your equality rights, your freedom of religion, your freedom of expression, all of those things entrenched in the Constitution is very, very significant. Constitution is supreme law. And what we mean by that is that it's the highest law in Canada. All other laws have to be in alignment with the Constitution. If it contradicts the Constitution, we'll talk about what happens there. Okay, another activity where we are going to see how much you know about what the country regulates and what the provinces regulate. Let's go through one by one. So, healthcare and education are both provincially regulated. So when you talk about schools, you guys remember during COVID, you guys were probably in high school-ish, right? What was happening with schools in BC and Ontario was not what was happening with schools in Alberta, right? And that was because those decisions about what kids do in school was under the province's control. Same thing with healthcare, the vax mandates, all of that provincially regulated. Trade, national security, commerce, postal service, criminal law, copyright law, railways, all federally regulated. If you think about these things logically, the things that require coordination among provinces, like airlines and railways and pipelines and commerce and trade and things that involve multiple jurisdictions, are going to be federally regulated so that they can coordinate among those jurisdictions. Things like education and healthcare that stay within the province will be regulated by the province. Contracts and torts and labor law. So your course here is all provincially regulated. If a province tries to regulate the postal service or a railway or tries to make a law that is outside of its jurisdiction, we call that law ultra vires because it is outside of the scope of what the powers are. That is the Constitution Act of 1867 that created Canada, created the division of powers. Remember, this was this first one. The second one is the Act of 1982 with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.